Your resume is written like a clinician, and the person reading it is a product management hiring manager who has never worked a shift in a hospital. That mismatch between how you describe your experience and how a product management hiring manager actually reads it. It's the single most common reason that qualified candidates and clinicians, just like you, don't get interviews for healthcare AI product roles. And it's not because you're not qualified. It's because your resume is speaking the wrong language to the wrong audience. Hi, I'm Jennifer Rist. I've launched over $300 million in healthcare platforms, and I've coached more than 50 clinicians through this exact transition. And I have sat on the hiring side of these conversations. I know exactly what a product manager, hiring manager, is looking for when they open a resume, especially from someone with a clinical background. And I know exactly what makes them stop reading. Today I'm going to walk you through 5 steps to rewriting your clinical resume for a healthcare AI product management role, even if you have never held a product management title in your life. We're going to do it section by section with real before and after examples so that you can apply this today. Before we get into these 5 steps though, let me explain exactly what product management hiring at the management level sees when they open a clinical resume, because understanding this will completely change how you approach everything that follows. Clinical resumes are written to demonstrate competency and compliance. They document what you did, in what setting, following what protocols. Maybe something like you administered medications to a 12-bed unit. You maintain accurate documentation per facility standards, or something like collaborated with interdisciplinary care teams. That language tells a very important story, but it tells a clinical employer exactly what they need to know. You are competent, you are careful, and you follow process. To a product manager, hiring manager, that same language reads as task execution with no evidence of that real product thinking. No ownership language, no outcome metrics, no indication that you have ever identified a problem, designed a solution, and driven it to implementation. The goal of your product management resume is not to hide your clinical background. It's to make it shine. It is to reframe it consistently, specifically, and in the language that maps directly to what that product management hiring manager, what they're trained to look for and what they're looking for their team. So let's look at 5 steps on how to accomplish that. Step number 1 is the resume summary reframe. So rewrite your summary to lead with product identity, not clinical identity. The resume summary is the first thing a hiring manager reads. It is where they decide in 10 seconds or less oftentimes whether to keep reading or to pass and move on. And for most clinicians making this transition, the summary is where the resume immediately signals wrong candidate. A typical clinical summary says something like dedicated RN with 12 years of experience in ICU care, committed to patient safety and quality outcomes. That is a great summary for a clinical role. But for a product management role, it tells the hiring manager nothing relevant. Here is a potential reframe. You are not hiding that you are a clinician and you have all of these wonderful skills. You are leading with what makes you valuable as a product manager candidate who happens to have a lot of clinical depth. So maybe before you might say something like, I'm a dedicated RN with 12 years of ICU experience, committed to patient safety, quality, outcomes, and interdisciplinary collaboration. And then after we reframe it, saying something like clinical to product leader, right? Listen how that sounds. Clinical to product leader with 12 years of ICU experience, translating complex workflows and problems into technology requirements. You have a proven ability to align clinical stakeholders, identity adoption barriers in AI product rollouts, and communicate across technical and non-technical audiences, seeking to apply clinical domain expertise as a healthcare AI product manager. Sounds totally different, right? But even if you were to go into another higher level clinical role, reframing what you do in your experience like that is a wow factor by far. And notice what the product management version does. It uses product language. It uses workflow problems, technology requirements, adoption barriers, stakeholder alignment. It names the role that you're targeting, and it frames your clinical experience as the specific asset that makes you valuable in that role. That is the signal the hiring manager needs to keep reading. And I know that you could put it together because you have all of this proper experience. Step number 2 is translating clinical bullets into product management language. So rewrite your experience bullets using product language and outcome metrics. This is the section most clinicians find the hardest, and the section that makes the biggest difference because it's really easy to catch with bullets, right? Every bullet point in your work experience section needs to be rewritten to answer one question. What product management skill does this demonstrate? The formula is simple though. You take a problem, you take an action, and you take an outcome. What was the problem you were trying to solve? What did you do about it? And what was the measurable outcome or measurable change? Let me give you a few examples here. So maybe before you might have said something like participated in an EHR implementation training and supported rollout across units. After, you might say something like served as a clinical liaison during an EHR implementation, identifying 6 workflow gaps between system design and bedside practice. You documented requirements and advocated for configuration changes that reduced average documentation time by 15 minutes per shift. Or something like you led quality improvement initiatives to reduce medication errors on a unit. That sounds amazing, but if you spin it a little bit differently and you say it in a phrase similar to you identified the root cause of recurring medication verification failures through structured user research with 8 nurses. You designed and implemented revised protocol that reduced medication errors by 34% over 90 days. And you presented the findings to hospital leadership and adopted unit-wide. So there's numbers there. There's facts and figures, right? Use it. You have these skills. These are the things you're doing each and every day in your regular day-to-day job. Just need to frame it differently. And you're not making things up. You are translating real examples and real experience into the vocabulary that product management hiring managers are trained to recognize. Stakeholder alignment, root cause analysis, requirements documentation, user research, measurable outcomes. These are product management concepts, and you have been practicing them your entire clinical career without calling them out. I promise you. Step number 3 is what to do when you have no product management projects. So build one real project and put it on your resume. The number one objection I hear from clinicians at this stage is, I don't have any product management projects to show. And my answer is always the same. You don't need a formal product management role to demonstrate product thinking. You need one real project that shows that you can approach a problem in the way that a product manager would. And you probably have done these projects already if you're involved with EHR rollouts, implementation of new software or new applications. Take it and reframe it. And there's tools now like ChatGPT and Claude and a lot of other AI tools that you could write what you actually did and just massage it and make it sound like product management speak, right? You have all of these additional tools to help you frame it in the right direction. Here is what that can look like. So you pick one clinical workflow problem you have direct knowledge of or you've been involved in. An AI alert that fires the wrong time, a documentation process that creates friction, a handoff that consistently breaks down. Write a 2-page product brief. Define the problem, the affected users, the proposed solution, the success metrics, and the implementation risks. And who all was involved. You don't have to put exact names, but what were their titles? You do not need to build anything really. Other than that, you need to demonstrate that you can think like a product person, that you can frame problems in terms of users and outcomes rather than tasks, checking the box, and protocols. That's all great. Protocols are really important, but when you reframe it as to what problem were you solving and how did you do that, that makes you shine. Put it on your resume under projects or product work section. Title it something like clinical workflow analysis and product brief, and AI alert optimization for your particular specialty. One well-crafted project like this, it signals more product readiness than a dozen generic resume bullets for sure. If you want more help on this topic, check out my video on the 3 things that get clinicians hired. So I'll put a link in the description below. Step number 4 is the skills section hiring managers actually read. So build a skills section that speaks both languages. Most clinical resumes have a skills section that lists clinical competencies, specific procedures, certifications, equipment. That section needs to be completely rebuilt for a product management application. It's all great and it's important, but we need to rebuild it in the right language. Your product management skills section should be organized into 3 categories. Clinical domain skill, so this is the things that make you uniquely credible in healthcare AI. Second is product skills, the frameworks and methodologies that you can demonstrate even without a product management title. And third is technical fluency, the AI and healthcare IT literacy that signals that you can work effectively and efficiently with engineering teams. So for clinical domain, list things like clinical workflow analysis, EHR systems like Epic, Cerner, specific to what you know, and go with what you know because only you could speak about that. Look at regulatory environments like HIPAA, the FDA SAMD, if that's relevant, or clinical stakeholder management, or care team dynamics. And for product skills, list things like requirements documentation, user story writing, stakeholder interviews, process improvement, cross-functional facilitation, data analysis. These are all things that you have done. I know it. You are naming them correctly in the terms of product management. So for technical fluency, you might want to list some things like AI literacy or clinical decision support systems, ambient AI tools if you have used them, FHIR, HL7 if that's relevant, and any data tools that you have used in your clinical role. So a warning here is don't just list anything because you want to be attractive to a hiring manager. Don't list things that you can't speak to on an interview because they're going to ask you. They're going to look through your resume and pick out things that are in there and competencies and ask you for examples. Do not undersell what you actually know though. I mean, sometimes I've talked to so many clinicians and they feel that imposter syndrome. You have a lot of skills. You're the right person for the job. You just need to reframe it a little bit differently. And most clinicians dramatically underestimate how much technical fluency that they actually have accumulated through the years of working inside complex healthcare IT environments, especially with those EHRs, right? How many rollouts did you go through? How many implementations, especially if you were involved in the training and optimization? Step number 5 is solving the ATS problem. So optimize for the ATS before the human ever reads it. The last step, and the one most people skip, is making sure that your resume actually gets seen by a human being. And unfortunately, without networking, or even when you are networking, when your resume goes into the HR system, it goes through this ATS step most of the time. Most large healthcare AI companies run resumes through Applicant Tracking System, ATS, before a recruiter ever reads them. So even if you have some connections and they get your resume, when you go through ATS, if it's not clearing the ATS for the right keywords, you might not be called. These systems scan for keyword matches against job descriptions. So a clinical resume with no product management language will fail this scan, regardless of how qualified that you really are. And the fix here is pretty easy and straightforward. Take the job description for the role that you're applying to and identify the 10 or 15 most important keywords: product roadmap, stakeholder alignment, user research, clinical workflows, EHR integration, cross-functional teams, go-to-market, agile, whatever appears most frequently and is aligned with what you know. Then make sure that those exact phrases appear in your resume, naturally integrated though into your summary and experience bullets. Do not keyword stuff. Do not include terms that you cannot explain in the interview. But if a job description uses the phrase clinical workflow optimization and your resume says patient care process improvement, the ATS will not match them. So it's just about rephrasing what you already do. Use their language. You still get to be you. You are just speaking the language that the system is listening for. And one more thing, keep the format clean. Single columns, standard fonts, no tables or graphs inside the document. ATS systems cannot parse complex layouts, and your carefully crafted bullets will turn into garbled text. So although some resumes look amazing with pictures and all kind of graphics, it's hurting you. It's not helping you, I promise. Let me recap the 5 steps real quickly. Number 1, rewrite your summary to lead with product management identity and name the role you are targeting. Number 2 is translate every clinical bullet into product language using the problem action outcomes formula. Number 3 is build one real world project brief and put it on your resume. Number 4 is rebuild your skills section to speak to both the clinical and the product management language. And number 5 is keyword optimize for the ATS before you even submit that resume. None of these steps require you to pretend you have experience that you don't have. All of them require you to accurately represent the experience that you do have in the language that the people making hiring decisions are trained to understand. If you want to know where your resume stands right now and what else is holding you back from landing this transition, the clinical to PM readiness scorecard is in the description below. It's 12 questions and it gives you specific personalized answer. It's free. The link is in the description to this video. And if you want to work through this directly with someone who has been on both sides of this hiring process, you can request a strategy conversation with me at jenniferrist.com. I work with a small number of people at a time, and I will tell you honestly whether this is the right move for your specific background. And if not right now, what do you need to get there? So subscribe if this was useful and share it if it was helpful with someone in your clinical network who is sitting on a resume that deserves to get read. I will see you all in the next video.